situation. Our current number one, well, a whole lot of people do not agree that it's supposed to be number one. Is currently unattached. He doesn't have a club at the moment. He left Chipas United, and it's not doing so well. He's clubless at the moment, and we have constantly said that we need people who are playing regularly to be our number one. You cannot be clubless, or you are sitting down on the bench and you want to be number one. However, according to a report, Etel is talking about bringing in an Uzoro, and we knew how Uzoro's performance was during his first stint with the national team. What do you make of this? And there's a Maduka Okoye that, I mean, he made only one mistake. That's about 6 years ago in the 2019 Nations Cup, and since then he has been banished from the national team. I mean, so what do you make of this? I will start with Kiki. What do you make of this? Eric Cha is saying that he has confidence in Uzoro, and Uzoro currently is not even the number one choice of Ominia Nukosa that he plays for. So I mean, how do you justify not bringing in an Okoye that's playing regularly for Udinese vis-a-vis Anila Valley that doesn't have a club?
Okay, so the Nigerian goalkeeping situation. Eric Shell coming out publicly to back Uzoro, I think it's just a PR move. And this is why I say so. So Uzoro is going to play. He's actually going to be our number one for the short term. The person I think the NFF and Eric Shell are actually after is the Wrexham goalkeeper, after Okonkwo. That's the person I think is actually going to be Nigeria's number one. And I think the NFF, I know the NFF technical director has met with his representatives last year. And I know Eric Shell spoke with him as well last year prior to the African Cup of Nations. So I believe after Okonkwo is actually going to be Nigeria's number one in the future. Now, the issue with Maduka Okoye is that Eric Shell invited him for the African Cup of Nations, but he refused to come unless he was guaranteed the number one spot. So Eric Shell felt, okay, you have challenged my authority, no problem, we'll play the competition without you, which is fine. A manager can actually lay down the law, put his foot down and say, this is what I want, and if you are not in line, then forget about it. So Maduka Okoye has to patch his relationship with Eric Shell. Will he be number one? No. If Arthur Okonkwo makes the switch from England to Nigeria, because I know there has been talk of him trying to finalize that switch, trying to come over to the Nigerian side. If Arthur Okonkwo makes the switch to Nigeria, he's number one. Maduka Okoye, Amas Obasoke, Francis Uzoro, all of them can forget about it. I think their time with the national, they are dropping to third, fourth, and fifth choice respectively. So the ball is really in Maduka Okoye's court. Do I repair my relationship with Eric Shell for a chance to be Nigeria's number one? And how long can I actually wait? Because there is someone in England waiting in the wings to actually take my place. Francis Uzoro is a band-aid. He's a temporary solution for what really has been a long-term problem since Eyama left the national team. So Eric Shell backing Uzoro, great. I appreciate the move. It will at least give him some confidence. But ahead of the 2027 AFCON in Kenya, I don't think Uzoro is going to be the man between the sticks. I think it will either be Okonkwo, that is my intuition, or by that time, Eric Shell and Maduka Okoye should have resolved their differences. I know the NFF is definitely involved. They want Okonkwo. They're not trying to hide it. And Okonkwo is at Wrexham. Like Wrexham are competing week in, week out to be promoted to the Premier League. He's been with them from League 2, League 1. Now they're in the Championship, they are 6th. I know they play Chelsea at the FACup this weekend, so I'll be keeping an eye out on his performance. So let's see. Let's see. Uzoho temporary. Maduka Okoye, the ball is in his court. After Okonkwo is who I hope is actually Nigeria's number one come 2027 and beyond. So
Well, I mean, Temiloluwa, what do you make of this? And yes, Kiki made the point. He said, yes, I myself, I do not appreciate the fact that, Maduka Okoye came out and said he would only come to the Nations Cup if he's guaranteed a first team shirt. However, let's put this in perspective. I'll give a typical example. You have three people on a job. You are doing better than the remaining two, right? And they decided to
yeah,
promote those under you ahead of you. I mean, Temiloluwa, will you be happy? Don't you think Okoye was justified to lay his complaint? He has been doing so well for Udinese. You remember the betting scandal? He was suspended. He came back, and the coach still retained him as number one. So how do you bring Anua Bala? Remember, Anua Bala had considered over 70 goals before that particular tournament. Chippa United, and in the last, how do you bring Anua Bala as number one? And Okoye is not guaranteed a number. He's not even number two. He's number three. I mean, what do you expect? What do you make of that, Temiloluwa?
Okay, first and foremost, I read an Italian report, an Italian report, a publication on this Madueke's issue. And what the report said was that, as at the time we went for the AFCON, Udinese were battling relegation spots as at that time. And then the club asked Eric Chell if he was going to start him, and Eric Chell said no, that Nwabali is starting, which means that Okoye is either second choice or third choice. And then from the report, Udinese said, okay, since he's not going to be starting, since we're in a relegation battle, I think it would be better if we call him back and he stays with us. Definitely, they don't rotate keepers at AFCON unless if the goalkeeper is injured. And even if the goalkeeper is injured, we would rather continue with a broken leg than go outside. So I think that was what transpired from that Italian report, that it wasn't Madueke that said he didn't want to play. It was a club that suggested that, okay, since we are in a relegation battle, we need every of our players to come out of it. And since Okoye wouldn't be starting, since he is not even second choice, there wasn't any point for him to go there. But regardless of how it's going to be, I think Madueke has to settle, Madueke and Udinese have to settle the NFF and Eric, I think, for us to have a go at this. Bringing in Uzo, I'm never really safe with Uzo in goal. We can be leading 5-0, but there's always this part of you that feels like Uzo will just conceive one magical goal. Like you are never really sure of a clean sheet with Uzo. That's how terrible it has gotten to. So I think Okonkwo that Kiki spoke about, I think I followed him from his time at Arsenal. You know, so he was from Arsenal's youth system. I think I watched a couple of his games then because his name sprung up. I know anything Nigerian now, we always want to follow up, so we know how to hype our players. So I followed up, and then I was like, oh, okay, at least this guy has potentials. He was brought up to the first team, but I think definitely the options were limited, so he had to go. And he's doing very well at Wrexham. In fact, doing fantastically. I just hope we're able to convince him. I just hope we're able to convince him, so it doesn't become a case of easy or a case of, we understand. So I just hope we're able to convince him, and if we are able to, it is now left to him. Can he keep that momentum? Now we are thinking of, okay, 2029. This player can flop next year, 2028. So we shouldn't just put all our hopes on a player somewhere that is performing. Yes, he's performing at the moment. Yes, he's still very young. There's a whole lot to improve, but we just have to ensure that we look inward too sometimes. Yes, and even though our league is somehow, but then I think it's that time we look into our league. I'll be very, very comfortable if we look into our league and get the best keeper in our league than using Uzo. No disrespect to Uzo. Uzo is a good keeper, but if you are not starting for Amenu Nicosia, I don't think you should even be on Nigeria's bench. A team that boasts players of Ademola Lookman playing for Atletico Madrid, Osimhen playing for Galatasaray, that is being linked to PSG, and I don't know if you understand it. So, and then you are playing for Apoel Nicosia, and then you're in Nigeria's squad. So I'm not very comfortable with Uzo. I think we need to look inward. You understand? Pending the time that, like Kiki said, pending the time Okonkwo comes around, pending the time he switches allegiance to Nigeria, I think it's going to be a very long while. You understand? But the PR, like he said, this PR that Eric did for Uzo just to ginger him, say, okay, you know what, you are the go-to guy now, so I think you should try to put in one or two things, but I'm not very comfortable with Uzo. And for Nwabali, I think he needs to change his agent. You understand? Change his agency. They are not doing any better for him. Nwabali is a fantastic goalkeeper. You understand? Nigeria has thrown him into the limelight. I don't think he should be struggling to get a club at this point in time, but fingers crossed. Pending the time to convince Okonkwo, I think we need to look inward to try to get somebody that can actually step up, you understand, and challenge Uzo pending the time. Because I don't feel comfortable. As a Nigerian watching Nigeria play, I don't feel comfortable to Uzo.